For months, Judge Michelle Cisco presided over the Foolio murder trial like she had total control, shutting down the defense, allowing prosecutors free rein, and running her courtroom with an iron fist.
Right? Didn't happen. Inexcusable.
Well, Your Honor,
Inexcusable.
But now, viral footage from inside that Tampa courtroom is exposing what was really going on behind the scenes. And it's the reason she just got kicked off the case entirely.
It's disrespectful. He's done it in front of the jury as well, and there has not been any attempt by the court to intervene in that. So I want to make sure that it's on the record that it's inappropriate.
Bias, hostile treatment, one-sided rulings. The defense put all of it on record, and an appeals court just agreed. We're about to break down exactly how this trial went completely off the rails. The defense attorney had finally had enough. After days of what she described as disrespect, hostility, and unprofessional treatment, not just from prosecutors, but from the judge herself, she stood up in the middle of the Foolio murder trial and put it all on the record. What happened next would go viral, expose the dysfunction plaguing this high-profile case, and ultimately lead to the judge being removed entirely.
If I may respond, we are professionals just like every other attorney in this courtroom. The bigger point that I was making is that the way that Mr. Harmon has been speaking to this side of the table is unprofessional, it's disrespectful.
But this wasn't just about one prosecutor's tone. The defense attorney went further, making an accusation that would prove prophetic. That the court itself had failed to maintain neutrality, that the judge had allowed a hostile environment to develop and done nothing to stop it.
He's done it in front of the jury as well, and there has not been any attempt by the court to intervene in that. So I want to make sure that it's on the record that it's inappropriate.
The judge's response was cold, dismissive, and dripping with contempt. She didn't address the accusations of bias. She didn't acknowledge the defense's concerns about being mistreated in front of the jury. Instead, she doubled down, using a word that would come to define this entire dysfunctional proceeding.
Right? Didn't happen. Inexcusable.
Well, Your Honor,
Inexcusable.
That's what Judge Michelle Cisco called the defense's conduct. But months later, when an appeals court reviewed what had actually happened in that Tampa courtroom, they would use that exact same standard to evaluate the judge herself. And they would find her conduct so problematic that they removed her from the case entirely. This heated exchange wasn't an isolated incident. It was a symptom of a trial that had gone completely off the rails. A trial where witnesses were caught watching court TV coverage of the very case they were supposed to testify in, where the defendant was reprimanded for laughing during proceedings, where random spectators were being secretly photographed in the gallery, and where the fundamental rules of courtroom procedure seemed to apply differently depending on which side you were on. Let's break down exactly what happened in that explosive moment, because it reveals everything wrong with how this trial was conducted. The confrontation began when Judge Cisco addressed a serious issue: witnesses violating the rule of sequestration. This rule, a fundamental principle of fair trials, prohibits witnesses from watching other testimony or discussing the case with each other. It exists to prevent witnesses from tailoring their statements based on what others have said.
If I understand the counsel right, because they invoked the rule of sequestration, they have only advised one of their witnesses about the rule?
I don't know.
Is that correct, counsel?
The defense had apparently failed to properly instruct all their witnesses about this rule. That's a legitimate issue. But here's where things got heated. The defense attorney tried to respond, to explain, to provide context. The judge shut her down immediately.
I understand that.
Okay, I'm making a statement. I'm not looking for a response.
In a courtroom, during a murder trial, the judge explicitly told defense counsel she didn't want to hear from them, that she was making pronouncements, not having a dialogue. This is the kind of behavior the defense would later cite in their 18-page petition to have Judge Cisco removed.
You invoke the rule of sequestration. That means all witnesses, it's incumbent upon the lawyers, as the professionals that they are, to tell all of their witnesses as well. You're not to be discussing the case, you're not to be watching it on court TV, and apparently that didn't happen.
The judge then delivered her damning verdict: inexcusable. But the defense attorney refused to simply accept the reprimand. She stood up and put her concerns on the record, not just about this incident, but about a pattern of treatment that had been happening since day one of the trial.
The rise in tone is unnecessary, and it's disrespectful, and it's inappropriate.
This is why everything that's happened in this trial is on the record. Everything's been videotaped.
The judge's response was telling. She reminded everyone that the trial was being recorded. seemingly as a warning.
Everything's been videotaped. The conduct of everybody involved.
It almost sounded like a threat, but ironically, that same footage would later be used as evidence when the defense argued the judge had shown obvious bias and hostile comments throughout the proceedings.
Conduct of everybody involved, okay? And the failure of the defense to tell their own witnesses not to talk about the case is inexcusable, and that's a matter of record.
Then came the moment that exposed the double standard at the heart of this trial. The defense attorney revealed that it wasn't just defense witnesses violating the rules. The prosecution had been doing the same thing.
They've had witnesses outside the courtroom discussing the case with each other, talking about the case, the prosecutors themselves.
Well, you should have brought it to my attention.
Well, you should have brought it to my attention.
That was the judge's response when told that prosecution witnesses had been doing exactly what defense witnesses were being condemned for. No outrage, no inexcusable, just a mild suggestion that the defense should have mentioned it earlier.
It's been an issue. They're apparently saying it's an issue for us, and they're doing it themselves.
Okay, let's bring in Detective Ramos. Ask him if he's been watching Court TV about this case, and then we'll get going.
The defense attorney's point was clear. The rules were being applied unevenly. When defense witnesses violated sequestration, it was inexcusable. When prosecution witnesses did the same thing, it was simply noted and moved past. This disparity in treatment, this appearance of bias favoring one side over the other, was exactly what the defense would later argue too. And this wasn't even the only example of chaos erupting in that courtroom. During the same trial, 2 random spectators approached the judge claiming they were being secretly photographed by unknown individuals in the gallery.
Someone taking photographs of
I
you.
was just notified, and we're gonna say, like, I think you just took a picture of it.
Mr. Alfred, did you see someone taking your photo, or what you believed was someone taking your photo?
Yeah.
These weren't witnesses or family members. They were ordinary citizens who had simply called the courthouse, asked if the trial was public, and decided to attend. And yet they felt so unsafe, so watched, that they interrupted proceedings to report they were being documented.
I just want to let everyone know, like, we don't know either, like, we don't know no one here.
Sure, I understand. No
I
one's.
called the courthouse this morning, they said it's open to the public.
Yeah.
And I said, can we come? They said yes.
Yeah.
The judge banned all photography, acknowledging it went
Against the First Amendment.
but deeming it necessary for safety. This footage went viral, amassing over 748,000 views on X alone, turning the murder trial into a spectacle that drew comparisons to reality television. But the photography incident, as wild as it was just another symptom of a trial completely out of control. A trial where the atmosphere was so toxic, so charged with gang tensions and personal animosity that normal rules of decorum had completely broken down. And at the center of it all was a judge, whose conduct would ultimately be deemed so problematic that an appeals court would remove her from the case, potentially jeopardizing the entire conviction and forcing the legal system to reckon with what had really happened in that Tampa courtroom. The photography incident itself illustrated just how far the paranoia had spread. One of the spectators told the judge he had seen photos being taken of him more than 100 times throughout the proceedings. Think about that. Random people off the street, with no connection to the case whatsoever, felt so unsafe that they interrupted a murder trial to report surveillance.
The white male?
No, black gentleman.
Both of them, actually.
Both of them.
When the accused photographers denied the allegations, the judge made her ruling: no more photos from anyone. She acknowledged openly that this violated First Amendment principles, but given the gang connections and the very real threat of violence that hung over these proceedings, she deemed it necessary. Normal rules had to bend. Normal protections had to give way. This wasn't a normal trial.
The question I ask you is, did you take photos of these gentlemen or anybody during the course of this trial, either in the courtroom or outside of the courtroom?
The footage of this confrontation racked up over 748,000 views on X alone, with millions more across TikTok and other platforms. People couldn't believe what they were seeing. Users mocked the idea of treating a murder trial like a tourist attraction, not understanding that the paranoia was completely justified given the history of violence that had brought everyone to that room. But here's the thing: both moments of viral chaos, the lawyer exchange and the photography confrontation, were symptoms of the same underlying disease. This trial was fundamentally broken. The atmosphere was so toxic, the stakes so high, The animosity so thick that normal courtroom procedures simply couldn't contain it. And when the appeals court finally reviewed what had happened, they would agree that something had gone very, very wrong. To understand why that Tampa courtroom became a powder keg, you need to understand what was actually being decided there, and the long, bloody history that led to it. Julio Foolio, whose real name was Charles Jones II, wasn't just any rapper. He was the face of Jacksonville's drill music scene, a polarizing figure whose lyrics documented, and some would say fueled, one of the deadliest gang feuds in Florida history. His songs named names, mocked the dead, and celebrated violence with a specificity that made him both famous and infamous. His mother, Sandricus Mays, a registered nurse and business owner, tried to explain the son behind the controversy in an exclusive interview.
Great kid, great dude. He spoke on your name a lot too in interviews and things of that nature. It sucks that we have to meet or finally, get to know each other on these terms.
But the violence that would eventually claim Foolio's life started long before he became famous. He was first shot at just 14 years old, getting off a school bus, shortly after losing both his father and grandmother. Deaths that, his mother said, triggered a rebellion she couldn't stop no matter how hard she tried.
Shot when he was getting off the school bus, and he don't catch school buses. I was in front of the school, waiting on him to fall asleep in front of the school. It was an alternative school.
She put him in every program she could find. Youth Crisis Center, Daniel Memorial, anything designed to help troubled youth. But as she explained, he would escape these programs, picked up by older associates who had respect for his dad, and returned to the streets that were slowly consuming him. The violence escalated. In 2018, Foolio's own mother was shot 8 times while leaving for work early in the morning, an attack she believes was retaliation against her son.
I got hit up on my left side, my whole left side of my body, but all the bullets landed to my right side. And I suffered I got bullet fragments on my spine. The bullets are still in me to this day.
The bullets are still in her body. And after she was shot, multiple songs were released appearing to celebrate the attack. This wasn't a conflict between strangers. This was a war where even the parents weren't safe. So when Foolio decided to celebrate his 26th birthday in Tampa on June 23, 2024, his mother warned him not to go. She offered to help him have the party at a safer, gated location, but he refused. He was tired of hiding. He wanted to feel free. That freedom lasted until approximately 4:26 a.m., when 3 masked gunmen emerged from a black Chevrolet Impala in the parking lot of a Holiday Inn and opened fire with high-powered rifles and a fully automatic Glock. Foolio was struck multiple times. His body was found in the back seat, suggesting he had tried to escape the bullets in his final moments. 3 others were injured, but survived. 5 suspects were arrested: Alicia Andrews, Isaiah Chance, Sean Gathright, Rashad Murphy, and Davian Murphy. Prosecutors allege this was a coordinated gang hit, revenge for years of disrespect through Foolio's music. Alicia Andrews, the girlfriend of co-defendant Isaiah Chance, was the first to face trial. She wasn't accused of pulling any triggers. Prosecutors argued she was a lookout, tracking Foolio's movements via social media and relaying information to the shooters. And it was during her trial that the courtroom chaos captured on video erupted. The prosecution presented damning evidence, including surveillance footage of the shooting itself, described as crystal clear, and cell phone data tracking the suspects throughout the night. But perhaps most damaging were text messages Andrews had sent 3 years before the murder.
And then the defendant then texts back to you, and this is January 21st of 2021, 8:39 a.m. Girl, I don't like Foolio. Ugly. He needs to die.
The defense fought to keep these 3-year-old texts out, arguing they were nothing more than ignorant gossip between teenagers with no connection to a murder that happened years later. Andrew's best friend even testified that the messages had nothing to do with any plan to kill Foolio.
When you and Alicia are texting back and forth, does this have anything to do with Alicia wanting to kill Julio Foolio?
No.
Did you ever want Julio Foolio to die?
No.
Legal analysts watching the trial were stunned the judge allowed this evidence. One attorney on Court TV called it
potentially appealable error,
saying the texts were highly prejudicial with minimal probative value.
I don't know why the judge would let that in. And yes, it did change my opinion of her. I gave the example yesterday of how much time she'd be spending in jail.
The defense tried to argue Andrews was a victim herself, that she had been abused by her boyfriend Isaiah Chance, beaten for 20 minutes at a time, had her phones broken, and was controlled in every aspect of her life. She claimed she had no idea a murder was planned and was simply along for what she thought was a reconciliation trip, but the judge made a critical ruling before trial. Andrews could not introduce evidence of domestic violence as a defense. This severely limited her ability to explain why she might have gone along with something she claimed to know nothing about. Throughout the trial, the dysfunction was palpable. Andrews was caught laughing and applying makeup during proceedings, behavior that shocked observers and went viral. Foolio's friend broke down in tears on the stand, requiring a recess after viewing crime scene photos. The gallery was so tense that random spectators reported being photographed. And through it all, the judge maintained what the defense would later call obvious bias and hostile treatment, treating defense counsel with contempt while allowing prosecutors more latitude, making rulings that seemed designed to ensure conviction rather than guarantee a fair trial. The jury deliberated for over 2 hours before returning a verdict that satisfied nobody. Guilty of manslaughter, not guilty of first-degree murder and conspiracy. Andrews avoided a mandatory life sentence but still faced up to 30 years in prison. Sentencing was scheduled for December 8, 2025. But what happened next would upend everything and force the legal system to confront whether anything that happened in that courtroom could be trusted. The tension in that courtroom hadn't appeared from nowhere. It was the natural result of trying to adjudicate a case that touched on some of the rawest nerves in American society: gang violence, rap music, social media beef, and the thin line between artistic expression and real-world murder. Over 75 rappers had been killed in similar circumstances, according to testimony presented during the trial. This wasn't an isolated incident. It was part of a pattern, a cycle that had claimed generation after generation of young black men from Jacksonville and cities like it. Foolio's mother had tried to break that cycle. She had tried everything: programs, counseling, relocating, pleading with her son to change his ways. But as she explained with heartbreaking clarity, there was only so much a parent could do. The trial was supposed to provide answers, to deliver accountability, to offer some measure of justice for a life taken too soon. Instead, it became another chapter in the chaos, a spectacle that went viral for all the wrong reasons, presided over by a judge who would ultimately be deemed too biased to continue. On December 4th, 2025, just days before Alicia Andrews was supposed to be sentenced, her defense attorney filed an 18-page petition that would blow the entire case wide open. The target, Judge Michelle Cisco, the veteran Hillsborough County Circuit Court judge who had presided over the trial. The accusation: obvious bias and hostile comments that had made a fair trial impossible. Remember that heated courtroom exchange? The one where the defense attorney accused the judge of allowing prosecutors to disrespect her since day one? The one where the judge called the defense's conduct inexcusable, while giving the prosecution a pass for identical behavior? That footage, and the pattern it represented, became Exhibit A in the argument that Judge Cisco should be removed. The petition alleged the judge had humiliated defense counsel in front of the jury through constant interruptions and denials of sidebars, visibly prompted prosecutors during witness examinations while restricting the defense, treated defense witnesses far more harshly than prosecution witnesses, pressuring defense to wrap up while giving the state unlimited time, laughed at defense attorneys during proceedings, allowed highly prejudicial evidence from prosecutors, like those 3-year-old text messages, while blocking the defense from presenting evidence of domestic violence, failed to intervene when prosecutors behaved unprofessionally toward the defense. Look back at that viral courtroom footage with this context. When the defense attorney complained that prosecutors had been speaking to her side unprofessionally and disrespectfully since day one, she wasn't exaggerating. She was documenting a pattern. When she said,
"There hasn't been any attempt by the court to intervene,"
she was building a record for exactly this moment.
He's done it in front of the jury as well, and there has not been any attempt by the court to intervene in that. So I want to make sure that it's on the record that it's inappropriate.
And when the judge told her,
I'm not looking for responses.
Refusing to even hear the defense's perspective, she was demonstrating exactly the kind of one-sided treatment the appeals court would later find problematic.
I understand that.
Okay, I'm making a statement. I'm not looking for responses.
Judge Sisko initially denied the motion to remove her. She wasn't going anywhere. But the defense appealed to Florida's 2nd District Court of Appeal, and on January 27, 2026, the 3-judge panel granted the petition in a brief 3-sentence order.
This morning, an appellate court granted a request to remove the judge from the murder trial of rapper Foolio. This decision comes after a defense attorney complained of hostile comments and an obvious bias.
Just like that, the judge who had controlled every aspect of the trial, who had decided what evidence the jury could see, who had called the defense inexcusable while excusing the prosecution, was gone. A new judge would be appointed to handle sentencing and any future motions, but the implications went far beyond sentencing.
In light of the news, the lawyer for Alicia Andrews, who was recently convicted of manslaughter in the case, says they will be seeking a new trial.
Andrews' defense team immediately announced they would seek a new trial based on the disqualification. If successful, everything, the emotional testimony, the viral footage, the manslaughter conviction, could potentially be wiped away, requiring the entire process to start over. Think about what that means. Because the judge couldn't maintain basic fairness, the viral courtroom chaos footage takes on new meaning now. That moment when the defense attorney stood up and put her complaints on the record, that wasn't just drama. It was strategy. She was building the case that would eventually remove the judge, and the double standard exposed in that same exchange. The judge calling defense witness violations inexcusable, while brushing past identical violations by prosecution witnesses, illustrated exactly the kind of uneven treatment the appeals court found unacceptable.
They've had witnesses outside the courtroom discussing the case with each other, talking about the case, the prosecutors themselves.
Well, you should have brought it to my attention.
I'm doing it now because it's been an issue. They're apparently saying it's an issue for us, and they're doing it themselves.
Well, you should have brought it to my attention.
No outrage, no inexcusable, just a mild suggestion that the defense should have mentioned it sooner. The contrast couldn't be starker. Meanwhile, 4 more defendants await trial for Foolio's murder, the men accused of actually pulling the triggers. The state is seeking the death penalty against Isaiah Chance, Sean Gathright, Rashad Murphy, and Davian Murphy, citing gang enhancements and premeditation. Their trials are tentatively scheduled for April 2026. But Judge Sisko's removal raises questions about those proceedings too. If she was biased against the defense in Andrews' case, was she biased in pretrial hearings for the other defendants? Could evidence rulings she made be challenged? The ripple effects are impossible to fully calculate. Foolio's mother believes this is far from over, not just legally, but in terms of who's responsible.
Do you think it was a paid hit?
I do. But we don't know them people. Who are those people? Who is that girl? Who sent you? So, of course, I do.
She believes there will be more arrests, 2 or 3 more. People who orchestrated the hit that the 5 defendants allegedly carried out. Someone had to send them, she says.
Someone with money and motive who remains free while others face death row.
And through it all, the Jacksonville gang war that spawned this case continues. The feud between 6 Block and ATK KTA that has claimed over 75 rappers shows no signs of stopping. Foolio's mother had a message for everyone caught up in this lifestyle.
There's only 2 places it's going to, just keep it real, you're either going to be in prison for the rest of your life, or you're going to be dead.
She said her son was happy in his final 48 hours, celebrating his birthday, feeling free, not running or hiding for once in his life. And then it was over. In a parking lot in Tampa, in a hail of gunfire captured on surveillance footage the whole world would eventually see.